Today, I'm joined with John Passalacqua from First Phosphate. In this interview, we discuss the adoption of LFP batteries. We discuss First Phosphate's advantage in creating purified phosphoric acid, which is used in the LFP battery. And John discusses his commitment to shareholders as the story continues to unfold. Since I started working with the deep dive, we've easily invested in over 50 junior mining companies. And I got to tell you guys, John Passalacqua is probably one of the most enthusiastic, hardworking CEOs I've encountered. And when I say a junior mining company, it's probably not fair to characterize First Phosphate as a mining company because they're really more concerned about processing battery materials. Well, in this case, obviously, purified phosphoric acid. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Joining us today, we've got John Passalacqua from First Phosphate. John, where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, hi, Steve. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Istanbul, Turkey, believe it or not. I'm at the CRU Global Phosphates Conference. It's a once-in-a-year conference, and we were invited out, luckily, here to speak about the LFP battery. So that's what I'm ready to do here. Just got here yesterday, and I'm going to be here for the next few days. Thank you for taking the time with me.
So, John, I want to start with the news that Ford has announced that they're going to open a plant in Michigan to produce lithium iron phosphate batteries, the LFP battery, for future electric vehicles. How closely are you following stories like this?
Yeah, no, we're actually very close to the news. I think this is really the beginning, and I think it's going to be a massive trend. We're very much on top of it. We understand what's going on, and we understand the geopolitics around it. We understand what Ford's trying to do. We understand the difficulties. And we're very supportive. We're very supportive of the U.S. government. We're very supportive of Ford, and above all, First Phosphate is very supportive on finding a solution to this. This is a solution that we've been building upon for the last 8 months. And it's actually very timely, and it sort of kind of proves out our entire business model, to tell you the truth.
So we have two main types of batteries that we're seeing sort of in the EV world. I know that there's other types of batteries, but there's two main ones that we're hearing about. That's the LFP battery, which obviously First Phosphate is focused on, and then we got the NMC, the nickel, magnesium, cobalt battery. Why do you think that LFP batteries are advantageous, or we're going to see growth in that area in North America over the coming years?
Yeah, well, so Steve, the way I look at it is I don't look at it as one in competition to the other or one advantageous over the other. I look at them as complementary. Obviously, when you're looking at an NMC battery, it's a battery that has, a much higher, performance, if you will, in the end. It gets you, longer range. But the LFP battery might be a little bit on the low side with respect to an NMC battery, but it's great for all that we need. It's great for all those that average use, that middle class use, taking the kids to school, getting to work, going to do some groceries. You don't need to go over 100,000 kilometers in a day, so it perfectly does what everybody needs. Within its range. It's low cost. It's got an amazing fire safety. It's recyclable. And it's got a long life, and that's kind of what the auto manufacturer is looking for in order to, be able to find something that can support mass adoption. So the LFP battery really seems to be the battery that's developing as mass adoption, whereas the NMC battery seems to be, that really higher performance type of battery. So I think both batteries have a really strong space within North America, and I think that they're complementary. They're both, going to be the ones that charge us into this EV revolution.
There's lots of phosphate companies out there. What makes First Phosphate different? What's sort of the focus of the company? And when investors look at it, why shouldn't they look at it like another mining company?
Yeah, also, Steve, that's a great question. So first, there are phosphate companies out there. First Phosphate is the only company in the world, and it's the only publicly traded company in the world that is public or private, that's 100% focused on phosphate for the lithium iron phosphate battery industry. There's other phosphate companies out there, but all of them are focused primarily, first and foremost, on fertilizer, with LFP battery being a secondary component, one that will not occupy more than 5, 10, maybe maximum 50% of their sales. First Phosphate is going to be almost 100% focused on lithium iron phosphate battery. And that's important, Steve, because it allows us to focus on our, downstream client, which is, the auto manufacturers or any type of other manufacturing that requires the LFP battery. So we're 100% client focused on that technology client. Now, what does that mean? we're building ESG, we're building carbon footprint, we're building, ethical supply, we're building constant and secure sourcing, meaning that, when auto manufacturers are running just-in-time systems, we're going to be able to be there to provide for them. We're 100% focused on them. We're not an afterthought of the fertilizer industry.
You recently signed a Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, with Prayon, Europe's largest producer of purified phosphoric acid. Can you walk us through this and why Prayon?
Yeah, okay. So first off, let me just say, you hit it on the head. This is not about phosphate. It's really about purified phosphoric acid. Yes, in order to get the purified phosphoric acid, you need phosphate. But without purified phosphoric acid, you're not going into batteries. Phosphate does not go into batteries. It's purified phosphoric acid that goes into batteries, okay? And there's only 4 companies that we know of in the Western world that can get you to purified phosphoric acid. Now, there's a lot of companies in the Western world that can get to what's called MGA, merchant grade acid, which is, 90% of uses of phosphate. That's for fertilizer and for animal feeds. So many people can create MGA, merchant grade acid, but as far as we know, there's only 4 companies in the world, in the Western world, we're not talking China at the moment, that can produce purified phosphoric acid. So what we've done is we found one of these 4 partners, the one that we think is the best, the largest, the one that actually invented purified phosphoric acid about 70 years ago, and the one that's got the most environmentally friendly method of processing phosphate rock. And in fact, it's igneous phosphate rock. It's the only company that we know in the world that can process igneous phosphate rock, which is what we have in Quebec, Canada. The others have only processed sedimentary rock. So, Prayon Technologies is the perfect partner for First Phosphate on so many levels. And it's important for us because it allows us to, break that barrier between, phosphate rock and purified phosphoric acid. And it allows us really to produce the goods. Now, you asked about, the MOU. What does the MOU entail? There's a few parts of the MOU. First part of the MOU is an offtake agreement, meaning beneficiated phosphate rock that we will produce from our mine. That's before it becomes phosphoric acid. Prayon is ready to, purchase a certain quantity of it from us. Okay, so that helps us with cash flows. It helps us to establish a mine size. Okay, number 2, there's what's called a toll processing agreement, meaning that, we can not only send to Prayon beneficiated rock that Prayon wishes to purchase from us, but we can also send additional phosphate rock to them, which they will process for us and send back to us as purified phosphoric acid. Say, why do you want to do that? Why don't you just do that where you are? Why don't you just, you've got beneficiated rock. Why don't you just put it up to phosphoric acid right away? Well, that's capital investment. That's about another $500 million of capital investment that we don't have to put up right away until we build a certain critical mass. Okay. So they can help us to basically build our operations. So we don't have to put out the CapEx until, it becomes substantial enough that it justifies the CapEx investment. That's a problem with all these big projects. So we've broken through sort of the big project barrier. And then next, third part of the MOU is that Prayon will supply to us their technology for producing purified phosphoric acid. Okay, that's very rare. They provide out technology for MGA, merchant grade acid, and they provide very little ability for anybody to get access to their purified phosphoric acid technology unless it's partners that they really trust or that they're in joint venture with. Okay, so it's very important we graduated to that level of trust with Prayon. Number 4, the MOU sets out the ability for us to get to the next level. Once you've taken the beneficiated rock under the ground, once you've converted that to purified phosphoric acid, once you've gone to a further level of purification and created battery-grade purified phosphoric acid, which is the highest, purest form of phosphoric acid that you will find in the world, then it's time to create the lithium iron phosphate battery, the cathode active material that goes into the cathode of the lithium iron phosphate battery. And Prayon is willing to work with us and to study the possibility of creating an LFP battery factory in North America together with them. That's very special because right now, almost 100% of lithium iron phosphate cathode active material is produced in China. It's a big problem. You saw the announcement with CATL and Ford. What that's going to do, it's going to alleviate the fact that Ford will be able to make its battery cells together with CATL in North America if that deal is accepted and allowed by the Biden administration. However, what that will not do is it will not create the LFP cathode active material. Ford, North America, will still be reliant on that LFP cathode active material coming from China to go into these battery cells that then go into the battery packs, that then go into the batteries, that then go into the EVs. That's going to be a big problem. There's not enough of that LFP cathode active material for the Chinese market itself. There's political issues surrounding China right now that could be cut off at any day. And that's going to hit, and it's going to hit, and it's going to hit very hard. And no one even understands this, no one even has a consciousness of it. You've got to go behind battery cells. What sits behind the battery cells is LFP cathode active material. And we do not have a source of that in North America. So First Phosphate has been working very diligently for the past 8 months on preparing a plan to be able to do that for North America. Obviously, there's time involved in doing it, but at least we have the embryos of a plan, and we're getting very much down the line of being able to provide that as a solution for the lithium iron phosphate battery industry in North America.
So how hard would it be? Like, let's just say that we take one of the big fertilizer producers in Canada, like, I don't know, like Nutrien or somebody. How hard would it be for them to pivot if they wanted a piece of this market to be able to have their phosphate processed into, say, the battery grade phosphoric acid?
Yeah, like, honestly, awesome question. So let me peel that back. Okay, so first of all, in Canada, there are no producers of merchant grade phosphoric acid, nor the purified phosphoric acid, which is the next step. There used to be a couple. I believe one was at Red Deer, Alberta. Another one was at Belledune, New Brunswick. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. There's a couple producers of MGA, merchant grade phosphoric acid. That would be Mosaic. That would be Nutrien. I believe Simplot. So Mosaic and Nutrien are sort of in the southeastern United States, North Carolina, South Carolina. Then there's Simplot, and there's PHOS in sort of Idaho, Wyoming area. That's just for fertilizer, right? That is used. They're using a sedimentary rock to do that. Sedimentary phosphate reserves. This is very important. Those sedimentary phosphate reserves are they're laden in with heavy metals, cadmium, uranium, thorium, selenium, a host of other ones, and they're not as pure as the igneous rock that we're sitting on in Quebec. What we're sitting on in Quebec is 1% of the world's purest phosphate rock. It's igneous anorthosite. The sedimentary rocks, they're great for making fertilizer, and you can scale up about 10% of it to purified phosphoric acid. Now, the percentages are variable, but once you need to get beyond that 10, 15% purified phosphoric acid, it's very costly, and there's nowhere else to leave the contaminants that will be generated from that. So those mines can only produce 10 to 15% of their feedstock to purified phosphoric acid. That's number one. Number two, those mines are depleting. They're depleting quickly. We do not have more than 10 to 15, 20 years of phosphate left in North America. That might sound like a lot, but in terms of, reserve size and mines, it's very little. And it means that they're all working within, near the end of their lives, of their mines. Thirdly, a lot of these companies, when they create this MG acid and this purified phosphoric acid, they also create gypsum slag piles. And I can show that to you here in a second. And when they create that, it creates a lot of problems locally for residents. It contaminates drinking water. It creates these gypsum slag piles that need to remain inert, in the environment. They cannot be recycled. And so it is problematic to get new reserves to come online inside of North America. Now, what we have inside of igneous rock in Quebec, and why it's so important, is that we can scale up 90% of our production to purified phosphoric acid. So we have a mine size that's only, an eighth of what the mine size would be of a sedimentary mine to make the same amount of purified phosphoric acid. That's number one here. Number two is the rest of it, only 10% is very little that needs to go into fertilizer. Whereas when you're doing this from sedimentary rock, 90% of it needs to go into fertilizer, right? Only 10% of it goes into purified phosphoric acid. So when you're dealing with a sedimentary mine, you're going to be first and foremost a fertilizer producer. You're going to be selling 10% on the side. Now, let me ask you this question. If you're in an electric vehicle manufacturing company Would you want to be buying an element that's so important in your battery from somebody who sells fertilizer and you're only 5 to 10% of their business? Would you want to buy your purified phosphoric acid on a partner like First Phosphate who can focus 100% on your needs, create a purified phosphoric acid and a plan that fits perfectly with what you need, works with you on the R&D, fits right into your just-in-time processes, and is fully 100% committed on LFP battery and you as a technology client?
I'd assume that I'd prefer that. I'm not a chemist, but that brings me to the next question. In China, where LFP batteries I think are even more popular than NMC batteries, is most of the phosphoric acid coming from igneous rocks?
No, it's coming from sedimentary rock, right?
Okay.
And, we talk about financial markets. You've been in financial markets a long time. You know the word arbitrage, right? So I call, what's going on in China with a lot of, industrial processes. Again, I'm not here to pick on China. I love China. It's a great culture. But in terms of industrial, processes, it's environmental arbitrage. Now, what do I mean by that? The Western world, we have very stringent environmental requirements around what we do. In China, they're maybe not as, stringent as we are. So you're able to produce materials using standards and methods that are no longer acceptable in the Western world. So what does that mean? When we create purified phosphoric acid in the Western world, we use what's called the wet method. You take, phosphate rock, be it sedimentary or igneous. Right now, it's all sedimentary. And you apply what's called sulfuric acid to it. The sulfuric acid attacks, the phosphate rock, and out comes, phosphoric acid, MgA, weak acid, MgA acid, and then you get gypsum slag, which is basically calcium sulfate. Okay, that's not the way that they traditionally have done it in China. They're starting to move towards, the method of the rest of the world for ESG purposes and carbon footprint purposes. But generally what they would do is they would crack the phosphate with a lot of heat. So you take the phosphate, you put it into an oven, you put a lot of carbon in there, you create a lot of CO2, but you heat it up to such a level that you crack it, meaning that all the other stuff that's involved or together with the sedimentary ore, which is very low grade, gets cracked, gets split apart, and you're left with, elemental phosphorus, P4. You then react that with, H2O water, and you create a lot of purified phosphoric acid. But the environmental decay that goes along with that process is absolutely not acceptable outside of China. So it's problematic. So a lot of these batteries, and this is very important that all your users focus on this, a lot of these batteries are going into our cars right now, and these are our electrical vehicles, and then we're driving around thinking that we're saving the planet. Guess what? We'd be much better off to continue to drive our own current fossil fuel cars than to accept these batteries that are coming from these countries with these very low environmental standards. We don't see it. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. They go into our electric vehicles here, and we think, oh, we have a solution because we have an electric vehicle, but it's not really a solution at all. Because if you had to do, calculate the life cycle assessment of it, but not only life cycle assessment of it on the carbon level, but also on the environmental, social level, you would see that it's a big X, as opposed to, doing it properly here in North America. So what I'm trying to say to you, Steve, is the solution that we're, proposing at First Phosphate, but hopefully others will propose similar solutions. And the solution is bringing our industry back home here into North America, doing it properly, doing it clean, being able to understand it, like fully tracing the whole process around it, and creating a battery that actually, is solving a problem, not creating another one.
So John, last question for you. If investors are watching this story, you guys have sort of come out here with a bang, lots of talk, at least in our circles. Everybody's sort of watching how First Phosphate is trading, and I don't want to get into any of that. But investors are curious here. What should they be watching out for? What do the next steps sort of look like for First Phosphate? Is this a company that's still going to have lots of news flow moving forward to keep investors excited? What's the sort of timeline look like over the next year for the company?
Well, okay, Steve, that's another really great question. So, you're talking to me about share price. Sure, a CEO, every CEO is watching their stock. Well, obviously, I'm happy. Our last round of financing was at 35 cents. The stock has come out. It's trading much, much higher. I was very comfortable in saying that this would be the stock that would break the bear market. And I feel it has. It's trading way up above its last value, its last round. But look, I'm not focused on share price. I'm focused here on building a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, what I want to build here with LFP is similar to what has been built by the fertilizer companies. I look at companies like Mosaic, I look at companies that like Nutrient, and you're going to say, are you competing with them? I said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to copy them. Oh, you're a copier? No, I'm not a copier. But I really like what they've done in fertilizer. They have started with a mine, and then they've taken the phosphate out of the mine. They've launched it with phosphate, with potassium, with nitrogen, and with ammonium, and they've created fertilizers. They created lots of different types of fertilizers. They put into a bag, and they sell it to you for $1 a bag. You go to the fertilizer, you go to the store, you buy that bag of fertilizer. I think that's amazing. You start with a mine, you do all these value-added activities, drop it into a store for somebody, and they buy it for $1. Okay, I want to do exactly the same thing, but I want to do it differently. I want to copy them, but not copy them. I want to copy their, them philosophically, their vertical integration. So I want to take the same model. I want to start with a phosphate mine, right? I want to mine that phosphate. I want to beneficiate it. I want to purify it up to phosphoric acid. I then want to combine it with the iron and the lithium that we need. And I want to create a bag of lithium iron phosphate cathode active material. That bag goes for $25 US, bag right now, a kilogram. Obviously, different inputs, not going to be the same as doing with fertilizer, but their model is fantastic. I want to take that same model. I want that model to apply to lithium iron phosphate cathode active materials that will then sell to the people making the battery cells and the battery packs. So when Ford has to do, an agreement with CATL or somebody else, and they created battery cells, guess what? They're not then buying that LFP cathode active material from China. We're not, subject to that and slave to that, but we'll be able to produce that ourselves here in North America with First Phosphate, being that solution. So basically, I'm here to build a business. I'm focusing on that. I see these companies like, Mosaic and Nutrient, they're trading in the billions of dollars of valuation. And I see a once-in-a-generation opportunity here to create the same thing with the lithium iron phosphate battery. It's going to be a niche. Yes, it's only going to be 10% of fertilizer, of what fertilizer is in terms of phosphate. But if I can capture 1% of that, 2% of that, this is a multi-billion-dollar business. And that's what I'm going after. And I think the smart money in the markets are realizing that, right? They're coming out there and they're on the bid for the stock. I've got people out there who wanted to buy the stock, telling me I get on the bid, I can't buy the stock. I said, yes, I know, because the smart money is lifting the offers of buying the stock. And they're going to take it up to the valuation that they think that it's worth. I don't know what that is, but me, I'm just out here and I'm building a business. The market's going to decide the rest of it.
Well, John, congratulations on the early success. I know you're one of the hardest working CEOs we've encountered in the junior market. So we applaud all of your hard work. And as a shareholder, I encourage you to keep it up. It's been really exciting to watch the story. And please keep coming back on here so that we can continue to learn more about the story as it continues to evolve.
Yeah, no, Steve, I really appreciate that. And, there's going to be times where you're going to see a lot of our news flow, and there's going to be times where you're not going to see a lot of it. If you go onto the news page of First Phosphate, www.firstphosphate.com, you look at our news section, since June, when we started on this project, you will see a press release every week. People got to go there. They got to read these press releases. They got to say, hey, is this a real press release, or is this the typical fake BS press release that comes out of junior companies, to try and pump this and pump that? Or are these people actually building a business? Is each of these press releases foundational to building a business? Make that decision for yourselves. You'll see, I believe there's 21 press releases sitting out there. It's only been the last 6 months. We plan to keep going. We're out here to build a business. And, we feel that this is a story. We feel that this is, is an exceptional opportunity. And it's something that I'm living with a lot of passion. I love it a lot. And I listen, like our investor base, to get on there, to read it, to see if you believe it. If you want to come on this journey with us, And we're going to get to there together. It's going to be a fantastic journey. It's going to be something to be able to write a book about someday. We're extremely dedicated to it. I'm dedicated to it. I'm working as hard as I can. We got dozens of people on this project. Everyone is a good apple. There's been a couple bad apples in the company. They haven't lasted long. They're gone. But I can tell you, everybody that's in the company is a team, is a part of the family. And anybody else who wants to come on board and become a part of our shareholder family, you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you on board and just, help us become constructive. Ask us any questions. We grow through the shareholder base. I've been an investor before. I know what it's like to be on the other side and not have information from CEOs, not have information from companies. That's not what's going to happen here. We are going to communicate. We're going to communicate directly. There's no question that's too hard for us. And there's no criticism that we're too big or too small for. We're strong, we're passionate, we're moving forward, but we're also very humble. So let us know what you're thinking. We're here for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for doing this, John.
Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you could do me a big favor, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It would be greatly appreciated. All right. I love you all.